What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Meltdown, episode number 4, with me, Llama77, and your boy Q, the handsome guy over there. Q, how we doing today?
Yo, what it do? What it do? It's the middle of the week, man. We're doing pretty good. We got a pretty busy slate on our pretty busy docket on our slate. However you want to say it. It's been a long week already, man. I'm happy though, man. We're in the midst of getting ready for land season, right? For the first kind of go around across a couple of different titles. I mean, we've got land coming up for RLCS. It's like what, 2 weeks away. We've got Masters Madrid this weekend. We've got ALGS, the final regionals to figure out who's going to land this weekend. It's a nice time of year, man.
Well, like you said, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, and I think first we gotta talk about RLCS. We missed one region in the previous week that we didn't get to talk about, so let's talk about EU.
Yeah, I mean, the French are really good. Like, surprise, surprise, surprise. They finished top 4. They'll be going. But Masters Madrid is this
No,
weekend,
no,
right?
no, 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 no,
That's-
no. Okay,
It's
we
simple, man. We've seen how good the French honestly, though, I do got to say, when do we make the French like their own region in EU? So other teams in EU like stand a chance of going to land.
I mean, it'd be a little bit awkward. Like you have to kind of divide up the land spots as well. But I think it's very true. Like they're still sitting very, very dominant, and we'll talk about that in the hot and cold a little bit later. That the French still pretty much on top here, and nobody's been able to beat them.
It's been pretty impressive, man. I mean, Carmine Corp able to finish their perfect split. One of the things we were kind of wondering if they would be able to pull it off. They joined a couple of teams who were able to do that. Obviously, thinking of Falcons as well as Limitless. I would say the fact that Carmine Corp able to do it, not trying to take like downplay being able to win 3 regionals for the other 2 squads, but being able to do it in EU,
In
pretty
EU,
impressive.
yeah.
Yeah, it's wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a step up from the other regions. Not a diss to the other regions. It's just EU has shown that they are the best, not only in their
Yeah.
home region, but at international as well. So we'll have to see if that dominance continues. And I'm really excited to see the kind of clash of play styles because, well, yes, we are seeing they are the best in EU, but we know that like North America, everybody plays just a little bit different. And to see those styles in person in LAN is going to be really fun to watch.
It's gonna be fun to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some upsets across some of the regions. I think a lot of people are gonna be going in underestimating power. I was talking with Hoj over on X, Twitter, whatever we call it these days. I feel like they're gonna be a team that can turn some heads. I also feel like we'll be kind of surprised at how teams finished in their regions compared to how they like how they compete on land. Kind of thinking about especially like Vitality, right? Like
Yeah.
kind of getting in by the skin of their teeth, but I would say that they don't look like they're far off from the top of the region either. I mean, we did see them able to go to 6, right? I feel like Vitality for a 4 spot is going to be able to turn some heads still even in their own right.
I think so too. I mean, I really think they're back in form. It was nice to really see them perform as well as they did in that qualifier number 3 and to,
Yeah.
take a couple games off of KC as well. Like that series was 2-4 at the end of the day. You win one more and, maybe something's a little bit different. So I think they also brought some really clean games as well that not only did they 4-0 Oxygen, they 4-1 to Moist, which I think was a little bit surprising to me. I thought that series was going to be a little bit closer.
Yeah, I think everyone was kind of expecting the way that Moist had been playing through the rest of the weekend that far, which we do gotta give like kind of tip the hat to Moist in
Yeah.
like the fact that they had a huge bounce back from their very disappointing qualifier two to be able to make it into top 4. Now, we could, talk about how the bracket kind of weighed out. I mean, of the
Yeah.
8 teams, to be able to play Redemption, I mean, still, but Redemption is a top 8 team. You gotta give it to them as well.
True.
And I would even say against Vitality they looked solid. I mean, what I think most of the games, I think 3 of their 4 losses were 1 or 2 goal games. Like they were really close.
I think so as well, and that's the thing that like it's what we always talk about when we're casting like the weeklies. Like the scoreline sometimes doesn't reflect the
Right.
entirety of that matchup, but Vitality is still gonna be able to take a couple games. I think off in that grand finals is gonna maybe skyrocket them to a nice position. Obviously for Moist and the crew over there, you got to keep on going and you got to keep on improving to you have now this footage against Vitality and you have this footage against, like you said, against that Redemption squad that you have to go back and look at. You're going to need to study up a ton to try and improve before their future here.
So I gotta ask you a question. I don't want to beat on this topic too much because we did talk about it quite a bit last week. About roster moves. This is the end of the regional or end of the last qualifier here now. So other than the 4 teams that are going to land, everyone else is already on their break. We've seen some rosters already making some changes. for a team like Moist, who has seen some lows on the roller coaster of qualifier one, but I think also showed just the type of potential they have, especially right now, the third qualifier. In your opinion, Llama, do you think Moist looks to make a roster move?
I don't know. I think it's really tough. I just think this offseason is going to be a little bit weird that now you're a team that didn't make it to LAN. You have
Mhm.
this little bit of break. And, for pro teams, it's kind of awkward. It's not like they're going down and playing weeklies to practice. And
Right.
all the other pro teams are going to be scrimming other pro teams at the LAN. Like maybe you could get like an Oxygen or a Magnifico or somebody else like that
Right.
didn't also make LAN. But what are you going to do? Like play them 100 times? I mean, maybe that could help your improvement, but I feel like it's hard to just say, okay, we're gonna grind out as a team, we're gonna stay together, where like you could maybe make a roster move and that could solve all your problems.
I think it's tough too because I feel like if you're looking at the Moist roster, I don't think anyone would want to see Joyo go. I feel like Joyo
No.
is like the staple for Moist right now, right? And then you look at Rezi and Oli, it's like, bro, they've only been there 2 months. When we look at when we're recording this, the 13th, they've only been there for 2 months. Is that enough to let it cook? We've seen I can't remember what team it was that did one of their like transparency statements last night. But they even said like part of it, you just don't have that much time. Last year you had 3 splits. This year you only have the 2. We're halfway through the season. I feel like for a team like Moist, for them, it's more if someone happens to get released elsewhere that you feel like can make the difference. I don't know if there's any free agents
Yeah.
right now, you know what I mean? Where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
could this player make the difference to Moist to like take them to that next level? Of course, I also don't necessarily know like the bubble scene over in EU.
Yeah.
There's someone floating around there that could kind of pick them up from that, but I'm not a 1,000% sure. I see I'm actually getting a message coming through here. It was our from Resolve. It was their
Okay.
little message. Which, by the way, big props to
Yeah.
them. We've been seeing
Yeah.
some orgs recently like trying to be transparent, but maybe not in the most best of ways. So I felt like their statement was like really well handled.
They handled it well. I mean, it was about like 80 seconds. It was pretty perfectly
Yeah.
timed. They stated exactly what went wrong. But I mean, to go back towards like not only picking up somebody that could change it, I'd be interested to see what kind of shifts we're gonna have in regions because I could see like maybe an EU player maybe coming over here to North America. I could see maybe you see like a wavy or something like a hot commodity right now going up and up and up. Maybe a team like that needs a big striker up in the air. Maybe they need that young confidence, and they're like, okay, let's take wavy from North America. So it'll be interesting to see like not only will there be that bubble scene flow from both of the North America and EU squads, but also to see the flow between each of the regions.
I do feel like when we look at a lot of the bubble scene talent, especially when you mentioned like an NA or like especially like a wavy, we do got to remember the whole school situation, right? Although,
That's
wait a
true.
minute,
That's true.
is wavy homeschooled?
Well, wavy, I don't know. No, I
No,
don't
he's
think so.
not.
But
Is he still like
he's
going to
16.
class? Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. He's like young. It's not even like we're talking like a college player who could then like move to like more like online courses. I would even say like when we look at NA's like kind of list, do you think an import would help a lot of these EU teams kind of knowing the like not to be that guy, but like the skill diff in regions?
I mean, I just like the different kind of mentality per se from one to
Mm,
another that like for North America, there are some young players that maybe are closer in skill diff, but also bring just a different play style. That like maybe
mm.
you like that aerial striker, that bumper, that enforcer a little bit more than like the EU passing plays between each other and the teamwork and communication. And maybe that's what you need to score some goals. Maybe that's your problem. And I think it could be the same for NA that maybe you see that maybe there might be a little bit higher skill gap over there, but you're also bringing in someone that, has better teamwork, has better communication. If you have a solid duo already, then you can bring in a third and it can change everything.
So you had mentioned as far as for teams looking to make those moves, who do they find to scrim? We know that a lot of people are getting ready for majors here. I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit. I'm kind of mad that I forgot to bring it up last week because we hadn't had a ruling on it yet, but it had just got started getting talked about like the day before I think we recorded last week. But the whole power torso situation with the travel for players going to. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Right.
Kind of.
So in the past, they've always kind of allowed for teams, especially from the farther regions,
Yeah.
OCE, APAC, stuff like that. If you wanted to move up your like flight date, because usually you only get there, I think it's like the
Yeah.
day before media day, which is like the day or two
Yeah.
before the start of the event, depending on how big the event it is. Um, you were able to arrange to fly there earlier, and you could just change the date, and sometimes, like, the teams would have to, like,
Okay.
pay the difference or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
This year, it was either you go on that day or you cover the whole thing originally is what they said.
Oh.
So when you look at a team like OCE, when you're going or not OCE, when you're looking at these teams from OCEs, the Powers, the KC, the Quick Trip Pioneers. I keep wanting to call them KCP, but they've got the new sponsor. Um, that's a big time change, like, to be making, right? And it not only just like the time change to be making to go directly into competing, but I also feel like one of the benefits of making the majors, especially when you're in one of these minor regions, is the fact that you get the 2 weeks
Yeah.
to boot camp and one, not only be with your teammates, which might not be as viable of an option in those regions, but also you get the chance to now scrim the players that you don't ever really get to scrim, these top teams from other regions. And obviously, if you're only getting there the day before, you don't get that chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is actually very large when you don't get to scrim those teams, specifically because you literally can't scrim because of the just the server difference from the
Right.
different regions. So that, like, when we talk about Apex, like EU and NA, they can scrim it together. They don't really care about ping differences, but like when it comes down to like getting to boot camp, getting to see those different locations. I mean, I was talking specifically about Apex, where you get to see where everybody else is landing. It's kind of the same exact thing. Where in Rocket League, you're getting to see the playstyles, you're getting to
Mhm.
practice against them, and if you get there tired, jet lagged, and no
Right.
no scrim practice against any of these other teams, like I don't think it makes it better for anybody. To be fair, like I think it lowers the skill level and lowers the quality of the
Quality of
event.
product,
Whereas you get 2
1,000%.
weeks and then everybody's getting better, everybody is playing at the best of their ability.
So the good news is the word did get changed around after being brought up, especially from Power. If I would imagine part of the reason that we saw Power and Torsos kind of bring this forward was to apply a little bit of the pressure, and
Yeah.
reasonably so. There's not much time until LAN. I do like to see that the right words been made. I actually know that as of tomorrow, Power will already be in the Copenhagen area starting their boot camp. I think we're going to start seeing probably the end of this week, maybe for some of the teams traveling further. So maybe your other APAC team and OCE team. I would imagine NA teams will probably start getting there like later or early next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Maybe some of your EU teams like later next week as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the North America EU, like you said, they don't have to go super, super far. But at the same time, the more time you get there, the more time you get to practice. So
Mhm.
all up to you on what you want to do for that. That is all I pretty much have for Rocket League, I think, for today. We got to move on to VCT because we got Masters Madrid starting here soon.
Soon, it starts in less than 24 hours from recording this. For our people who are listening to this, Masters Madrid will technically have already started, and I'm excited. This is, I feel like, the first Masters that we've had, or not Masters, just our first LAN and Valorant in a long time going in where everything like, there's nobody going in that's, like, a sure favorite, I don't think. Like, I think there are some people who feel that, like, one team or another might have a little bit of an edge, but
Yeah.
I don't think there's
A little
anyone
bit.
going in it's not like Fnatic last year. It's like, "Oh, Fnatic's gonna be one of the 2 teams in the grand final. Who are they playing?" Right? Probably gonna be Loud. Like, there's none of that this year.
Yeah. No, it doesn't seem like there is a clear favorite. I also think there were like just shakeups in every region as well.
Yeah.
That like you have like a team like Sentinels that I don't think I was expecting them to do as well as they did. They did as well as they did, and now they're like heated up and on a
Mhm.
really good tear. So I mean, they I believe play Heretics in their round one matchup. So there are some good, really good round one matchups that are going to be excited to see. And I'm such a fan of Swiss, such a fan.
So I did wanna pick your brain on that because obviously, like, we're very familiar with Swiss because we, like, watch a lot of RLCS. I'm so excited to see it implemented into VCT. Seeing it implemented with 8 teams as opposed to 16 is kind of interesting because it's still technically double elimination, but you're not, like, locked into your brackets. Like, I do like that part, right? Um
Yeah.
What's gonna be interesting, Llama, is watching all of the esports content creators who are gonna, like, start throwing out all these overreaction and bait videos once this thing's done. No, because, like yeah, no, but because, like, someone's like, there are 2 teams that are gonna have to leave Madrid that are 0-2.
Yep.
And that's gonna be where people are like, "Oh, do they have to make roster moves or what's the problem?" Like, but you could be a team that's like Gen G. You lose to Loud, and then maybe you lose to someone like maybe like a Team Heretics or Sentinels. Those are like 2 very good
Yeah.
teams, and even if you take them the distance and you're swept, now you're still out. You're out of the tournament already. It's I think the games are gonna be so much fun to watch. We saw VCT's Americas where like every matchup was almost
Oh
like an
yeah.
instant banger. I'm
Mm.
expecting the same sort of thing from Madrid, where like you just got to make sure you're tuning in every single day at 11, and then again for the second matchup, I think it's like at 3 or whatever it is.
Yeah, gotta tune in for both of them, and I gotta say as well, there's also gonna be like the people talking about like, oh, they went 0-2, they kind of got screwed by this bracket. Where like, yes,
Mm,
you aren't locked into your bracket, but that also means you aren't gonna know your opponents before the time comes. I mean, you're gonna know your round one matchup, but you're not gonna have all of that prep time to say, okay, if we beat Sentinels here, we play Loud here, and now we
right.
know how to prep against them. We know how to kind of expand our map pool. You have to focus on your own playstyle more than the opponents. You have to say, this is what we're good at. This is our win conditions. We have to play X, Y, and Z map if we want to win this series. And we have to make sure they don't do this. It's not going to give the coaches that much time to scout their second round and third round matches.
It doesn't, but I do feel like now is kind of where you get to really separate yourself if you
It's
are
true.
a team that overly prepares. I know that there's been rumors about how Sentinels is already literally like anti-stratting every like all 7 teams that are going to Madrid. Like the team that's in the back isn't like working overtime right now. So it kind of comes down to one, how good those guys in the back are. And I think also too, I feel like we're still gonna have to see some of these teams making adjustments, whether it be to the meta or
Yeah,
play style. We saw them have to do it a little bit heading into the kickoff event, but I think we're still gonna have to see that here just a little bit more. I'm especially looking at teams like Loud who feel like
yeah,
they're like, yeah, you're led by Sadak, who you know can make like really good game plans, but it feels like maybe not quite pushing the envelope in the way that you're going to need to, especially against a but the big thing for me is all the young talent that's coming to Madrid
that's
is
true.
going to have no problem switching things up. So you've got to be able to as well if you're a team like Loud.
And it will be interesting to kind of see the resurgence of those experienced players and see how
Yeah.
we know LAN affects players differently. That like it's a whole different beast playing there. Through that experience, you need to have somebody on the team that like can lock everybody's mentals down and say, okay, you gotta tune out the crowd noise. But I also want to see like for Loud and teams like PaperX that maybe don't always play traditional like styles of play, like how it works for them. Like if they're going to be playing wild and free or if they're going to play more safe. If they're going to say, we only have 2 matches to lose, are we going to try and death ball down mid or are we going to try and just, actually play Valorant default? Like,
Well, I'll tell you what, I am half tempted on removing my availability for tomorrow for like Rocket League for a TEC because like I almost want to watch the 2 o'clock game. I'm not gonna actually do it, but like Genji Loud is gonna be a banger. Tomorrow's
oh, yeah.
opening game, Carmine Corp versus FPX.
Oh,
I feel like of the 4 games is probably the one that like I'm most secure in saying Carmine Corp's winning that matchup.
yeah.
But I do think FPX is gonna put up a good fight. But the other 3 games, Genji versus Loud, gonna be fun to watch. I do expect Loud to take it on that, but I'm not gonna be surprised if Genji pushes in the distance. But then even when you look at what that would be Friday's matchup, the EDG PaperX game is gonna be
Oh,
so fun to watch. 'Cause I feel like there's so many questions around EDG and PaperX. I feel like is still finding their identity, and then send Heretics to end out like the first round is gonna be a banger.
yeah, I honestly, like I said, put some money there on Sentinels there at the end. But either way, it's gonna be really fun to see all these matches, and we'll honestly get to talk about the round two and round three and how things are shaking out there as well for these teams. Just win 5 head. That's all you got to do. Win 2 games, and you're moving on. Lose 2, and you're out.
I'm interested. I'm gonna try and pay attention if they talk about going into rounds 2 and 3. If there's a method to the madness of how things match like teams are played, because sometimes you'll see in like a Swiss format,
Yeah.
it's oh, you take one team from the high, one team from the low, and they just like you do like a drawing, right?
Right.
Or do you do where it's the highest round differential from your high bracket plays your
Yeah.
lowest low differential? So I'm gonna be kind of because I feel like if you do that, that's probably one of the things that I like most about Swiss is one, you're not stuck in your trajectory through the bracket, but you also kind of get to control your destiny. If you
Yeah.
are a team that shows up on tournament day and you're like playing on fire and you're able to take a 13-5 map, a 13-7 map, now all of a sudden, when you go into your second and third rounds, you're going to be playing against the teams who, if they even won, if they did win, they're one like kind of close
Yeah.
and they're already kind of feeling that pressure, you know?
Yeah, I believe all these are best of threes in the Swiss Age
They are.
as
Yep.
well. So it's not only the round differential in one round, but if you get to go to 3 and then you're winning all those rounds as well, definitely it can help yourself out. I gotta say, we gotta pick a couple of our. We got a crystal ball. We got to decide who we're
Wait,
picking
what are you
for
trying to
this
say,
one.
Llama? Hold on.
Nothing. We're just gonna use Q's head here for to crystal ball our couple picks. Either way, no, I think it's good to make some predictions here because there's a lot of standouts. Like you said, there's a lot of new players. There's a lot of teams that want to try and find their identity. I think for my two, I got to go to the Americas. I'm locking Loud and I'm locking Sentinels as my 1 and 2.
I think that's a very safe pick of you. I like that. I think that's a very smart one too. Because I feel like Loud is the number 2,
Yeah,
does kind of get the benefit of going against a Gen G squad who, um, maybe doesn't necessarily have the LAN
yeah,
experience coming as a number
that's
1
true.
squad, right? Um, However, I feel like Valorant's been one of those titles where we don't necessarily see the whole like rookies kind of
Yeah,
crumbling under pressure at their freshman LAN. It's usually kind of more the sophomore slump, but that's a story for a whole nother day. I do like the thoughts of America's. I think I got to roll, and it would actually then in turn, at least at the start, cause issues for America's. I think I got to roll with EMEA.
okay,
Carmine Corp, I feel like is a lot of people's just favorites for the event.
yeah.
Even again, not that there's like a huge favorite, but like a 22% favorite of the 8, you know what I mean? Of the 8 teams.
Yeah,
But I think Heretics, I think they're gonna be able to like feed off of that home crowd, and I think they're gonna have the benefit off that as well. I do feel like Americas will have a team in um
yeah.
the final 4, and that's then the question becomes, well, which region's left out, right? Because if you have 2 from one region, who's the other? But it's I don't know, man. It's gonna be fun to watch. I feel like it's I am unfortunately I've got some stuff going on this weekend where I won't be able to watch a lot over on Saturday and Sunday. I'm gonna watch as much as possible.
Got to go watch as much as possible. All of those games going to be lots of fun. I'm locking in A. He's locking in U. Everybody, we'll see how you guys are locking in there at home. Make sure you guys are making your predictions as well. But we are done with Valorant and moving on to Apex Legends Regionals this weekend, Q, to lock in your LAN spot. And then, like you said, we get the LAN Fest of Valorant and Rock League and Apex all at the same time.
Yeah, so Apex, we're gonna be waiting a little bit longer, right? So we got kind of got this nice little curve going on. So we've got Madrid going on the next couple weekends, and I think it ends literally the weekend before RLCS starts, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. Then RLCS is like what 1 weekend, 2 weekend, 1 weekend, and I think we have like
Two.
a 2 week
Yeah.
one.
Whatever.
And then we have a 2 week break or something like that, and then there'll be ALGS land too. Well, roughly should be ALGS land because ALGS does do that thing where we never know where the land's gonna be until after all the regionals are done
Yep.
and all these
Yep.
teams gotta get visas figured out. Um,
Mm.
but while we're talking about regionals, we kind of talked about last week. We did a little bit of a preview on the APACs, the APAC North, the APAC South. They wrapped up. Kind of interesting that we got to see like 2 different sides of the coin because in APAC North,
Yeah.
it was Reject Winity who wins 3 of 4. They are on match point after just 3 games, win it in 4. And then in APAC South, they go 10 games, and it was a banger of a series. I think the last game that they went in, they had like 8 or 9 teams on match point. It was a goodie. It was a goodie.
And I think it's going to be exciting going into this weekend because you're kind of seeing the differences of the flow of a match point format. Where
Mm,
if there's one team that is absolutely dominating early, it scares the crap out of the
yeah.
other teams, and they're like, "Oh, we got to make land. We only probably have a few games left. They're already winning games. They're already getting points. We got to back up and maybe calm down a little bit. Maybe not go for that fight. Maybe not go for that edge rotation. Maybe just play safe in zone." Where in South, you saw the maybe panic in the first 4 or 5 games. Then they're like, wait, we're going 6. Wait, we're going 7. We're going 8.
Oh,
We're
we got
going
more
9. We're
time, baby.
going
One
10.
more game. Let's go.
Like,
Let's go. Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because for Reject Winity, when you think about how they did it, it was what 14, 10, 24 plus 5 or 15, 49, 56 kills in 4 games. Like you're already taking so many points out of the lobby. Plus, you're finishing first in 3 of those. We saw that there. This was. I do gotta say that we finally got to see why they implemented the rule that if a team does happen to win before 6, it goes further. Because we did get to kind of see some changes in that rest of that scoreboard, which was necessary. We talked about it last week. The chances of how many land teams from champions potentially were going to miss from APAC North, and sure enough, I think we had 4 that ended up being the first 4, like right below the cut line.
It was kind of unfortunate that, like, it did end that fast. They didn't have the chance to get on towards it. I think South was really exciting as well. I think both those regions are. I know you're an APAC fanboy, but I think they're going to be able to show up at LAN as well. I think LAN will be really exciting for them. But for North America and EU, I think we've got two really good and nice, surprising regionals that are be coming up this weekend.
So the regionals, I feel like, are a little bit different in NA and EU, just in the sense that it's more for positioning
Yeah,
or for those teams just outside of the spot. Like you have that potential to come in and pop off and lock in the spot. But I mean, even when you look at where do you want to start? EU? We'll start
yeah,
EU
we'll
because
start
I
with
think
you.
we should do NA last because you save the best for last,
Yeah.
right? You
Oh
know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But for EU, the cutoff point is what, at 8? So that right now would be E6. The seed de France is at 79, and then the next team, Cybercats, is at 70. So it's really kind of like three teams competing for like the last two spots.
Yeah.
But we do know that some of those teams behind them do have a potential of getting at least close to the top of the leaderboard. Cybercats have gotten themselves a second. A couple of those teams have won games as well. So if you stay a lot around enough just to get to that 50-point threshold and then win a game, um, I'll be honest, man. In EMEA, it just feels like it's Aurora's world and everyone else is playing in it right now.
That's what it feels like, and like it was nice kind of seeing Zephyr excited about like the lifeline and the different picks and that they were running, and it's nice seeing the lifeline. I think it's a nice little fresh look, but I also think it's kind of interesting. Not only seeing the teams that are locked, but there's already some banter between EU and NA. Like Alliance, the contestant with the disguise, the previous G2 squad. They're saying, "Okay, we're going back to thermal. We're doing this thing again." And then 07's like sitting up there, and they're like, they land over at I can't even remember the location right outside of thermal, but either way, they land right there, and they're like, "No, don't come over here. You can go fight with them." But I think it will be kind of interesting, like you said. They're just fighting for kind of those spots, and I think for the top teams, you're just fighting to move up maybe one or two. If you can win and get the big chunk of points, it can maybe help your seeding a little bit in the groups because again, you got to remember it's not only about okay, we made LAN, it's if you make LAN as the 10 seed, you're going to be in a much harder group, so they say, versus a team that makes it in as like a 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah, and we've seen in the past where if you're in that group of Death Boy, well, I mean, you are fighting for your life every series. Because
Every
not only
time.
do you have 6 to 8 like really tough teams in your lobby, you've also got the 4 to 6 that are coming in from the other lobby as well. So it is going to be a big weekend all the way around. I'm kind of curious for you. Is there one region over the other that you feel like has a better chance of kind of one of those surprise teams like popping up? Because we didn't get to see it in APAC, which we'll
No,
talk about when we get to the hot and cold. Although Bear Claw Gaming almost did it.
close.
Um, do you feel like these I even look like at a team like Vamos Correr, like the old well, it's not really old. I mean, I guess it's technically the old Ascend roster because it's post killing Kashera with EQ, but I'm looking at them. They we know that they have the potential to pop off. I feel like EU could have one. You know what I'm saying?
I think so too. I don't think it'll be like a surprise team. I think it'll be a team around like the mid marker down there. I'm looking at La Cita de France because I think they're a team that has been like very
Hot and cold.
hot and cold,
Yeah.
unironically, not no pun there, but like the last 2 days they played, they got 21 points and 2 points. So like
Yeah.
the contrast of that is just absolutely insane. But I think they had really good rotations on their last day from what I was watching. They had really good gameplay. It's just if they can find that groove against the right teams. Again, this is a regional lobby. It is the best 20 teams that got decided over the whole entirety of the split. I think if we're going to see it, it's going to be someone like them or somebody like E6. I think E6 haven't really found their composition. They've been struggling. They've been one of the teams that have been struggling on this new patch. And if they can find it, maybe going to this regionals, they could be a surprise too.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I thought E6 was gonna be one of those teams that actually kind of closed the gap with the new
Yeah.
patch. We've seen a lot of the teams that are the veteran teams have kind of been able to use the ability of all the changes. They're the ones who are able to get in, get their hands on it, and kind of start figuring things out first. I kind of expected E6 to do that. They haven't quite yet, so maybe they do have that pop off potential.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who else has been really surprising me with how much they're performing. It feels bad for saying lacking because I mean, when you're in North America, Like you're fighting for your life no matter who
That's
you
true.
are every single night. But TSM, I feel
Yeah.
like
Oh
since
yeah.
the patch drop haven't quite looked the same, but of course, TSM kind of didn't quite look right. Then all of a sudden they had one good day and they were the same TSM of old. So I'm having a hard time counting them out just yet, but eh, it's interesting seeing these teams that you would expect to be doing well not.
America has 12 spots, correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Correct.
Towards
Yep.
land. So right now TSM is sitting at ninth at 79 points. 12th is only at 72 points. So realistically, they could not make land, which is a crazy thing to say because we have seen Dark Zero and TSM dominate for the entire history of Apex. And I mean, I was watching Design Full stream last night, and they were actually talking about that TSM like just isn't comfortable right now. They can't
Yeah.
find their composition. They've worked so long on the Valkyrie and put Evan on it, and just said, okay, we have free rotations, we're good to go. But with all these new perks, Valkyrie is actually kind of fallen out of meta. You know, people are focusing down those Valkyrie ults, and it's just really tough. They haven't found their ability to play around Caustic or anything else, and it's scary seeing this. That if they don't find their composition, they could be 4 points away from dropping out.
And we'll kind of dig into this a little bit later on the hot and cold section. But let's also keep in mind that if one of those bottom 8 teams in this top 20 lobby do win on Sunday, they automatically qualify in. Now NA is fighting for 11 spots instead of
That's
12.
true.
So then all of a sudden, where Oxygen's 3 spots behind you, they finish top 5, you finish bottom 10, and TSM's missing land. The reigning champs, not there. Like, that'd be wild, man. I do also gotta say, and we hammered it home last week, but I'm gonna say it again. I love the fact that we can finally say APAC South sits on the top of NA. Like very
True.
firmly sits on top of NA. No one else but Moist and DZ broke 100 points, and they're both over 110.
Yeah. And you know, we've argued this before that, you know, is it that they're from the region or is it that they've had this NA training that they've been playing in the good lobbies
I
time
mean, they
over
both picked
time?
up
But
NA sub, or both picked up
that's
NA
true.
thirds.
That's
I
true.
mean,
That's true.
yeah,
Either way, I mean, it's just crazy their dominance that they can continue getting. I was really surprised at Disguised. Like I said, I'm a Disguised fan myself. I got all three of their names right up there, but at the same time, like the consistency that they've shown and the ability to work off new compositions. I mean, Wraith and Rampart, you would never think you would see in ALGS, but they're playing it perfectly. It's helping out their edge rotations. And then, you know, instead of a Caustical to help protect yourself, they just put down a Rampart fence. And then they're just winning team fights because they're blasting you with that extra boost of damage.
yeah. I mean, and when you've got 3 fraggers like that, and you
That's
have
true.
the ability to boost your damage and really lock down an area, it makes sense. I feel like DSG is the epitome of what I love
Oh, yeah.
about the state of competitive Apex right now. It's find what works for you. It's not like it's, oh, you have to have this legend and that legend, and then maybe you flex a third between just these 2 legends, right? Like now, if you have a style that really fits you and the way that you can run through a lobby, you can pick a unique kind of loadout of legends the way that we're seeing DSG do and be very, very successful. And sometimes we see when it's coming down the home stretch of whether it's a couple of different qualifiers like RLCS or I guess what is called a split, no matter what. If you get hot going into land, sometimes that's the formula, and DSG has done just that. I mean, their best 2 performances are their last 2 times they've been able to get into a lobby.
And I think it's also interesting that like, you know, Timmy still has doubters. Like everybody's still on the like. I mean,
Success
I don't
breeds
know, but
haters,
like
bro. Like it's just what it is,
I
man.
don't know. Everybody's got haters, but like it's weird. Everybody's like very hypercritical of this team. I think that they've had consistent performances now. I mean, they were a little bit rough starting at land, but they got fourth overall. So I think they always start to ramp on up. And Timmy, of course, is a player that, like you said, is exceptionally skilled, but you know, is a content creator, has been playing other games. And I think people were down him going into it. And I think they just proved them wrong getting ready to go in towards the LAN and regional. I got to say, we made predictions for VCT. I think we should make quick predictions here for EU and NA. Who do you think is winning the match point format for both these two regions?
I mean, I feel like in NA, you gotta have to be dumb to vote against DZ, just the way that they're
That's
playing,
true.
man. It feels like Zero's so locked in and just like Zero is here to prove a point this year, and it's been very apparent that it's like, if we're not placing first, we're in the top 3. It's that
Mhm.
simple. They have not finished, and more than likely, we're top 2, like, it's just
Okay.
which is impressive. I feel like in EU, do I play it safe in both
You play
regions?
it safe.
That seems so boring, Llama. Feels so No, I do gotta say, I like the idea of in EU, kind of the way things have been going recently. Alliance is one of those teams too. It's kind of been getting hot at the right time. Not that Alliance is like
Yeah.
an outlandish pick,
No. No.
but I do think I'm gonna go outlandish. I'm rolling with my boy Nasky. In Nasky, we trust. Oh 07 gonna be taking it home in EMEA.
All right. I love to see that. I'll actually take Alliance. I think Alliance, like you said, very very much on a hot streak. Aurora, wouldn't be surprised if they take it as well from North America. I think DSG again, very very big fan. I don't think they win games is one of their problems they'll face on land. So
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna take Moist actually. That Moist has shown really really good stuff just alongside Dark Zero. I think they're heating up as well. So relatively safe picks that are kind of at the top of the leaderboard. But we'll have to see how that regional does go.
what's gonna be interesting, I think, for me when we're looking at it, man, is NA because we know that there's teams that have that pop off potential that are still sitting in the bottom like 8, right? Like the teams that you aren't right now going to land. And for me, we didn't even mention this team. I'm also kind of keeping an eye on XSET. We
Oh
like
yeah.
they have not been doing that well this year, but we again, this is one of those teams where it's like, this could be their week, man. Like they're looking decent scrims. Could they put it together? And they just haven't quite yet. But they're like, if one of the top teams does win, those top 5 teams does win, and then they just do better than GKS by 3 spots, they do secure a land spot. So, like, they are, like, the only team I would say in NA that truly controls their destiny that's sitting outside the top 12 other than winning.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of interesting to like how you pointed out, like, of course, there's a lot of teams that just have so much story that you feel like
Mhm.
they've been down at points. Like you talk about Optic Gaming, the team that like on land was super dominant. Sentinels, a team that we were just talking in Valorant, an amazing organization. Space Station, TSM, XSET, Furia, Luminosity. We already talked about Moist and DZ and Complexity as well. I mean, I remember the old days of Complexity where they were fragging out on Pathfinder as well. So, I mean, there's so much history here in America, so many teams that you feel should do good and should make land, but 8 of them aren't.
And it's interesting you mentioned Complexity because I feel like Complexity was a team that a lot of people were expecting to not only not be in this position, but potentially
Oh
be
yeah.
being relegated. And while I don't think that they've technically, like, qualled for land, like, they've pretty well qualled for
Close.
land as long as, like, the whole slew of things other than them just having a bad day happens on Sunday, you know? Um, but I think one that that I personally would love to see, not that I think will happen, but the story
Yeah.
that I would be cheering my hardest for is, like, if Native Gaming gets on Game
Oh,
Point, the
yes.
Broski Ramboski dog, like, he needs to be on land at least one more time. So I would love to see that story. It would require them to win. They're sitting down at 51 points, so, like, literally it's win or go home for them. Um, but I mean, sometimes pressure creates diamonds, baby. Let's get it, Ramboski. I wanna see it, man.
I love his story. That'd be really, really fantastic to see. I want to quickly talk about relegations before we go to hot and cold. Just for North America, I really like the players on meet. I think that Tech has really, really good insight on where to grab players from, but they were so close. They actually lost the tiebreaker on that 44-point threshold to actually be relegated. Them along with Oversleepers, I was really, really big fans of that they were starting to cook up towards the end. I think my biggest surprise is seeing FaZe down there. The FaZe, they got to work their way back through Challenger Circuit now.
The phase thing is interesting, isn't it? Because I feel
It is.
like we saw all the drama that kind of surrounded phase and its off-season moves and kind of the dismantling of the old team. And you figured when you had Snipe Down getting together with Pandas and Zeratrick, I think most people were at least expecting them to get to this weekend, be like top 20, right? So to see them down there, tough, man.
It is.
Definitely my biggest surprise is phase for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it, I don't even know how they're down there. Like you said, that's such a stacked roster. They have so much experience on it as well. But maybe they can work their way back on through. Obviously, I believe they play with the winners of the Challenger Circuit, and they play in like a match point or something like that to get
Yeah.
back on in. So there is opportunities to get back in. You don't have to take the longest route to get back on through, but it is still very, very scary for them. Two teams from North America, of course, are in that awkward spot there in the 21 and 22nd where, okay, you didn't get relegated, congratulations, but you're not going to LAN, you're staying at home.
Yeah, you're not going to regionals. You don't even have a chance. Oblivion, Diamond Gladiators. I think Oblivion being one of the teams, if I'm not mistaken, that was a PLQ team. So your PLQ venture does get you in both splits. So that's a pretty cool thing there. Yeah, I feel like for NA, the one player that I am least worried about that's getting relegated is on oversleepers, and that's Vatari. I feel like Vatari is going to bounce back. I don't know if
That's
Vatari
true.
gets picked up by a pro
By somebody
roster.
else, yeah.
But I feel like looking at the rosters that would probably be the one I would probably pick up, maybe even a couple of the FaZe boys, but even some of the FaZe boys, like not to be that guy. I feel like the turning of the guard is starting. I feel like we're starting to see that in ALGS.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's kind of going to be some of the first ones cycled out. Nightbound's old dog. He's like my
Yeah.
age, man. Like it's just time to turn it in. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you look at Skirt too. I think those players could possibly bounce back. Presley, Hambino, Scurry, all players we know and love that can definitely bounce back either way. But that I think is enough for the relegations and ALGS. You know what's time for? It's hot and cold with Q and Llama being bold. Q, the current score actually fluctuated a lot last week.
I don't want to talk about it. We're just doing
Yeah.
hot and cold.
Yeah, we're just doing hot and cold, but we do have to update the score. Current score is Q at 4 and Llama at 8. Last week it was 3-1. So
I
big
got
shift,
it
big
was a
shift.
rough week for
It
me,
was a
man.
rough.
It was tough. It was watching them one after one, too. A couple of them were really close, but this week should be fun. We've kind of talked about it a little bit heading into it. We kind of precursored my first one a little bit, but we didn't actually give full answer on it. We talked about an ALGS, especially in NA. Team solo mid, team solo mid. But there's a potential that they don't make land. So, do they fumble at the 1 yard line? And do they miss land? Hot, obviously, that's a scold not take if they do. Saying they make land is cold. To kind of precursor this a little bit, just in case, because we did talk about at the end, with where they're sitting, it becomes a lot more logical if one of those bottom 8 teams, a Native Gaming, a Sentinels, if they show up and they win on Sunday, even an Optic Gaming, like you pointed out, then all of a sudden, Oxygen finishes top 5, they finish 9th or below.
It's true.
Where are we rolling?
Oh, this one's hard because, man, they're such a storied organization, right? But they stink right now. Oh, they stink right now. Oh, they're
But
only
are
a
you
few
betting
points
against the
ahead.
CEO? That's the question.
Yeah, the CEO's not going to LAN. He's not going. We're taking hot. TSM does not make LAN.
Gotta say, I've definitely been in your shoes before. Then they had that pretty crazy single game that kind of turned things around for them last split. So we'll be seeing if something similar maybe happens during regionals. We'll see.
Well, we will have to see if that goes on through. Either way, I do want to give just a short update of last week before I get in towards my picks. What happened with the, swing of the picks of last week, in case you guys were following there at home. Again, Energy versus Shopify was our first one for me. Q picked NRG to win, and Shopify did beat NRG. ALGS A versus C placement. Group C won 4 out of the 6, and Q bet on Group A to win the more ones. For the Frost Monday repeat, of course, the Llama Super Team, back to back to back. You better have been watching that on Monday, and you better be watching next Monday because they might be doing it again. But
they're going to be trying.
They're going to be trying. And Frost Monday champ losses, the champ did have 4, so Q did pick that one correct. I picked correct on someone not outside of quals going to win the major, the Frenchman finals. Still Frenchman finals, so I picked that one correct too. And the top 2 spots occupied by Moist and DZ was picked correct by me too.
So you won with all cold takes, just for the record.
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
But I felt like they were the better picks. To be fair, either way, we'll see if maybe I already took a hot pick this week. Okay, so you can't blame me.
Fair.
Either way,
I jumped the gun. I'll let you go ahead and give one now. My bad.
Okay. We're going back to LCS. NRG, we are now in playoffs, by the way, for LCS, for those of you that are wondering. So, joining up with the LAN season, LCS is trying to send a couple teams towards the big international event. They only get to send two. So, you make top two, you get to send those two on over. So, NRG is going to be playing a series. They are currently the 5 seed. They made playoffs, but they are starting in the lower bracket. They will play the loser of the number 1 seeded FlyQuest and the number 4 seeded Team Liquid on Saturday. They are currently the 5th seed, but they do have that energy history of playing better against the worst or better against the better teams. So it is going to be best of 5. And Q, I ask you, hot will yes, Energy will win the best of 5, or no, Energy will not win the best of 5? Cold.
You just keep trying to get me into LCS.
Got to.
I tell you, bro, every time I turn it on, I just feel stupid. Like I'm like, I get what they're doing, but I don't understand any of it. Well, not any of it, but not enough. I feel dumb. No, you know what though? I do feel like I feel like I'm gonna go ahead and ride the NRG wave and say that they will win. You took a pipe and a hot one. I think it's fair that I take a hot one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they
Pause.
have that possibility. We'll have to get you into LCS. We'll have to get everybody at home into LCS as well. We'll have to have some watch parties in the Frost server either way. But I think you had a second hot and cold as well.
So we talked about VCT Masters a little bit. All right. So over this weekend, we have the Swiss bracket. So we can't really do a pick'ems. I feel like that would take too long. But I wanted to kind of talk about the top 4.
Okay.
Because we've consistently seen recently that there's at least a repeat team from the previous events top 4, right? So in this case, it would be champions. So my hot or cold would be, is there going to be a completely new top 4 from what there was at Tokyo? Hot is going to be yes, and no is going to be cold. The reason we're doing no as cold is just because some of the history there, and also because the two of the 4 teams are there. It's Loud and PR, Paper X. So pretty decent teams. You know what I mean?
This one's interesting because I think Cloud and Paper X, they're both good teams, but they are volatile teams,
Agreed.
to say the least. So that they're ones that I could see them either way making it yes or no. But I think Loud, I already bet on them earlier. I already made some predictions that they're going to make it there. And I think Loud is going to be the team that, it is showing up for the Americas. So I'm going to take yes. Yes, Loud is going to have the repeat.
Okay, so they will have so Loud will be the repeat team that's in the top 4.
Or Paper X. I mean, I'd be okay with that too, but
I love it. I personally do think we're gonna get a new 4, just because I think even though Sentinels and Heretics play each other, I think those 2 teams both get through, because I feel like whoever loses there is going to be playing. They're gonna win their second matchup. That's just about winning one more, and I think they're gonna have the better one on their shoulders. I think Carmine Corp probably goes through in 2 rounds. So that leaves me with one more spot. I'll take my odds in saying that probably Gen G or EGG get there is probably going to be Gen G. So even if you didn't pick it, that would be mine.
I could see it either way. Yeah, you could take that. I'll take it this way, but either way, we'll switch up games for my second hot and cold. I'm actually going back towards ALGS, and we talk about not only TSM and kind of their fall from grace, but also Optic Gaming, a team that we talked about that has had really good performances on LAN, has always really stepped up when the time is necessary, and they are possibly looking at not making LAN as well. So my question to you, Q, is will Optic Gaming place 8th or higher in the regional finals? Hot is no, they don't place inside, or cold is yes, they do place inside the hot.
So hot is no?
Hot is no, they do not place inside of the top 8.
Oh, give me the hot for sure, man. It's interesting, and I want to make sure I don't let my emotions get involved in this, because I do think the Loopy's a homie. Like he and I got to sit down and chat Vex Gaming back when he was the Vex coach. I thought it was very apparent, the Loopy difference.
Oh yeah.
From Optic, especially the back end of Split 2 to then going into Champions. I thought that the Loopy difference was very, very apparent. I even think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but moves like dropping on Dreamfire when they're already on match point to prevent Dreamfire from getting there. Like I thought that just had Loopy written all over it. You know what I mean? That sounded like something that he would do. To know, after we've seen coming across on Twitter, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, that didn't even open negotiations with Loopy. Just, hey, we've already got ourselves a new coach. I'd say Karma is all I'm gonna say on that.
Okay, I have to agree. I mean, I saw Loopy on the team long before, and like you said, long before like they were here, and saw the performances, and just such a fantastic coach. So I think it will be interesting to see where they do fall. Again, right now, Optic Gaming is 15th on the overall leaderboard. They are in regionals. They are at 59 points, so they're a pretty good chunk behind. That realistically, they either need to probably be in the top 3 to 5 and have some other people drop out, or they need to win the match point.
I mean, I feel like when you look at the Optic roster, again, the
Yeah,
history with
the
Skittle
history.
Cakes, knock, drop, like you wouldn't be surprised, but I don't feel it right now, man. And it feels bad because Optic is one of those names. It's a notorious kind of like you're talking about TSM, a notorious name. Optic, just being there brings a whole different fandom to the viewership. So hopefully, but I don't see it.
Okay.
Also, you remember back when Sweet signed with LG?
Yeah.
And there is this he did the whole, like, kinda recap of what his, like, off season looked like with the different teams he talked about. There is one team that he said he wouldn't tell anybody who it was, but he said that they were looking to basically just swap out their entire roster. I have always had a sneaking suspicion that that was Optic.
I thought so too. I thought that always Optic was always kind of looking for a change, but they were never like super public about like who they
Right.
were looking for, who they were aiming for. So I don't know. I think it could have been, but maybe not.
So I think
Maybe not.
Sweet kinda fits the mold of what Optic
For
looks
sure.
for in
Yeah.
their
For sure.
competitors, which was why kinda like the big thing for me. It wasn't so much about like anything negative on the Optic, like, current roster. It's just, like, it feels like the, like, Optic suite would've just made sense to me, you know what I mean? Like, not
No,
that
that.
LG doesn't, because I love what LG is doing over there. Like, I
Oh
think
yeah.
LG is we said last week about how Carmine Corp is kinda, like, setting the blueprint for, like, orgs. In NA, Luminosity is showing that, like, where we're seeing so many orgs closing their doors, that it is very possible to have, like, a flourishing business in this space.
They've set that blueprint, and they have set up kind of the rest of North America to put that bar up and say, can you match that as well? I think though, Optic Suite, unironically, like without trying to make a pun here, would be just like a sweet name. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
but
it really would.
either way, enough about ALGS and moving on to your
I'm going
third.
back to VCT, and I'm switching it up
Fine,
on
cool.
you because I realized we actually jumped
Switching back.
ahead and we already did what I wanted to do. Because earlier I was looking for just 2 teams that were a
Oh,
lot,
okay.
and then we ended up just doing regions, which was gonna be my hot or cold. So we'll have to figure out how we're gonna score this one later on. We'll figure that out in the back. But Llama, I just want 2 of the 4 teams locked. They don't need to be from the same region, so I'm not gonna put that restriction on
Okay.
you. But I want you to give me 2 teams that you say are a lot to make it past this weekend in Masters Madrid.
And we're both picking this.
We'll both pick it, yep, and it doesn't
Okay.
have to be 6 stuck at the same region.
Man, this. I think I have to keep it with Sentinels. I think
Okay.
Sentinels for sure. I think Loud is going, but I'm not gonna put my 100% bet on them. I think Sentinels 2-0 actually. I think Sentinels 2-0, and then it's tough. That's tough, man. I mean, Loud has, like you said, they play another 1 seed, but it is Gen G that has like a little bit less experience. I think I'm going Sentinels KC. I think Sentinels KC.
So, I think for me, I'm gonna have to go Carmine Corp for sure, 'cause I'm feeling, the wall that is blue. What's the color?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a blue wall I am officially a blue wall fan, man, like, I just love the environment they've got over there. Um, but I think I'm gonna have to lock in Loud because of the experience.
Okay.
I think Sonic as an IGL, and this is weird because, like, not that I'm not sold on Sentinels, it's just I feel like there's probably only gonna be one of them, and I can't vote against Sonic for now. So I think I'm gonna roll Carmine Corp Loud.
I can accept that. I think both the North America teams are gonna get there,
Right,
but
right. We
we'll
just
have
talked
to
about that
see.
earlier.
We'll have to see how the Swiss really shakes up, because I think it does depend. I'll be really sad if we just get like a Swiss that ends with like all the regions just fighting each other and eliminating each other. I really don't want that, but that might be how it falls. Of course, I've
Is
got
that maybe
one.
a rule that they have for when they're doing
Oh, like
seeding?
a region thing.
that they can't until round 3? Is that I will have to look it up. I think that'd be amazing if they did.
I think they do.
We won't take
Um,
turn like looking. We'll
it
update
said
probably.
okay. It says in the format that it's only round 1.
Oh, okay. So then it
Um,
probably is just truly based off of
yeah,
like round differential.
yeah. So could be some regional matchups to try and fight there at the end, but only round 1 is that region anti-lock where you're playing that other team from the other region. But
Right.
nonetheless, I've got my final one. This is the same one from the past couple weeks, and it is once again the Llama Super Team back to back to back
They
three
aren't
times.
winning 4 in a
Three
row.
times in a row, Q.
Oh
Three
no,
times.
I can't. I'm not switching up my vote now. There's the chances of it happening. You know that whole like what's the whole statistics thing that like if
Yeah.
you've been given an option behind a door, then they ask you to change your answer that you should just stay with the same door. That's what I'm doing here. There's just no way that they're doing it 4 in a row, bro. Like, and if they do, I just I'll be excited to watch. It'll be fun, but
Yeah.
like I might lose my shit. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
This week they actually got seeded number 2. They went to the lower bracket and they didn't care. They still won. They were popping off. This team is still insane. Of course, for a little bit of reference for everybody at home that wants to follow along with their bets. Again, this is the Llama Super Team, Nightya, Lev, and Pigeon that have now won 3 Frosts in a row. And the question is, will they? Q says no. Q says no.
I can't, man. I've stuck with this door for so long and been wrong. I will die on this hill and be right at some point. like
Oh man. All I gotta say, Q. All I gotta say. You just got pigeon, baby. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say, man. They got a new catchphrase. They're 3 in a row. They got the momentum, and they're staying together. They said for the next one. So
I
we'll
do
see.
gotta say, I'm gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun watching
Yeah.
Frost here now that we're back in the off season because we get to watch to see if maybe some of the potential like roster trials come through and like you know what I mean. Maybe we get to see them competing on there. Maybe even in some
Oh
of the
yeah.
other weekly stuff that we do. So that should be a lot of fun. But bro, this weekend, is going to be a blast with Masters Madrid. I'm going to have to try and figure out one, how I can even
Yeah.
watch Masters Madrid, but then also figure out where I'm going to balance that out with ALGS regional
Yep.
finals. It's going to be a fun weekend.
You gotta have all those monitors you have,
Well, we're
esports on
working
every
this
single
weekend,
screen.
Llama.
Oh yeah. Well, we got other monitors for that. We can put all our other esports on everything. We
Ah,
gotta
gosh,
split
man.
the screens. But the actual thing we're casting only gets like a little tiny sliver. We got esports over here, esports over here,
Hopefully
esports
they
over
are
there.
watching the episode.
No, we promise. We are fully committed to our work.
No, honestly, that's part of the reason why I haven't been pumping as much content, though. I have been preparing for that.
Before we end off the show here today, not only go follow Llama and Q, we both are on Twitter over at the _Llama7, at ya boy Q. Make sure to go follow over there. Keep up with all the updates. Also, make sure you're following here on the Frost Twitch channel if you're watching live. And if you're here at the end of the show, make sure to go follow over on the Spotify and the YouTube because it is going to be posted over there. Keep track of your hot and colds. Keep predicting things. Q, anything else before we end it away?
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure that our homies hook your boy up over on YouTube because if you're watching on YouTube, they should have me tagged down there as well. Come over and watch my YouTube stuff as well. Like I said, I've kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus just because I've been so busy between some stuff that I've got lined up casting wise, but we will be getting back to more frequent content over there. But yeah, man, make sure that y'all are following over here on Twitch if you're watching this live. Got those notifications turned on because we got stuff coming every single week, more content than ever. Super exciting. If you're watching on YouTube or chasing down that first 1,000 subscribers, hit that subscribe button. Turn those notifications on. And also make sure you're following Llama and your boy over on the good old Twitter app as well, because we get pretty active over there, man. But that is going to wrap it up for episode number 4. We appreciate y'all vibing through the first 4. We've got plenty more coming in the future. But until we catch y'all back for the next one, man, don't forget, with everything crazy going on in the world today, be true, be you, be sincere, game hard and love hard. All right, y'all. That's Llama. I'm Q. For the rest of the crew to the front to the back, y'all have a great rest of your week. Peace.